You're listening to a Comics XF podcast. Comics XF Interview Podcast, the show where two best friends talk about comics with the people who make them. I'm Dan Grote.
And I'm Matt Laswitz.
And this week's guests are the co-creators of the new Ignition Press series, The Patron, Christian Ward and John J. Pearson. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Wonderful energy for a Monday morning. or in the UK.
Yeah.
So, if either of you found yourselves with a rich art appreciating sugar daddy who did not try to murder you, what is the first thing you would buy?
Oh, that's a good question. I love the term sugar daddy. I love that you've shown it. Like, I'm now thinking, we really missed the trick. We should have referred to him as sugar daddy. Maybe that should have been his name, the sugar daddy. I don't know. What would I buy?
I don't know.
Oh, do you know what I do know what I would buy. Shall I go? Shall I buy you some more time? I'll speak really slowly to buy you more time. I do know what I would buy. Genuinely, I'm not kind of into like, I can't drive, so I don't want a fancy car. You know, I'm not like after anything like that. But I do have a little bit of a thing that I like buying that is just purely because I love buying it. And it connects really perfectly. This is genuinely true. I would buy art. Like, I love buying art. Like, and I often do a thing where I buy pieces of art from projects that I've worked on, and I've just bought a Nan's cover for the Patron for the variant cover we did for issue 1, and it's beautiful. I've got a Bill Sienkiewicz, which is incredible, from when I did Batman City of Madness. But anyway, so I love buying art. But there's only we don't have loads and loads of money, so there's only so far. There's like a ceiling to where I can go, and I'll often kind of like get kind of like creative discounts with like people that I've worked with and stuff. Like Sienkiewicz was incredibly kind of gave me the cover for a steal with absolutely a steal. But if money was no option, like, I think I would just go straight for art. I'd be buying Mignola, I'd be buying James Jean stuff, I'd be buying Dave McKean pages from Arkham Asylum. Yeah, I'd be splashing it all on art, and then just basically telling the kids this is precious. This will buy you a house when you're older. That's what I would be doing. Art.
Would you buy non-comics art?
No. Fuck that shit.
And that's the correct answer.
Yeah. Obviously, would you consider a James Jean painting to be comics art? I don't know, but if there is that connection. In fact, I tell you, I don't have many regrets in my life, but I do have one regret. I'm going to really date myself here, but I'm going to guess, gentlemen, that we're in the same sort of boat, so it's fine. I kind of I'm from the AIM generation of the internet, right? Kind of like
Sure.
AOL Instant Messenger. Okay, So back in early 2000s, when I used to live on my own, and I was starting to kind of really go into comics and start to connect with people on MySpace, on this crazy thing that we used to have back then called forums. Do you remember that? And I don't know how it happened, but somehow me and James Jean connected. He was doing covers for Fables at the time, and we would genuinely chat once or twice a week. We became quite friendly, and I was a huge fan of his art, still am. And I remember saying, I was like, oh, do you do commissions? And he was just like, oh, yeah, I'll do you a commission. I said, I'd love a painting from you. And the only paintings that people had seen really at that point was he did these sketchbooks, these process books that would have all of his kind of paintings in his sketchbooks. And he's like, yeah, I'll do you a painting. and we kind of we hammered out kind of like a deal, and it was like, it wasn't gonna be huge. It was gonna be like yay big. And he was like, oh yeah, $400. But back then,
Okay,
like
now.
I know, but back then, like, which would have been like £300 or something, that was a lot of money. Like I could like genuinely, I was like week to week, like it was, you know, can I buy this DVD that I really want? Can I buy this graphic novel that I really want? Not really. I've got a bill due. I've got, I've got to get a food shopping and whatever. Money was much tighter. And I ummed and ahed over it. I was like, I can't justify spending, £300, which for me back then was a huge amount of money. And I remember him saying this is, oh well, just come back. There'll always be another time. But of course there wasn't another time because he kind of skyrocketed in fandom and just, rightly so. And I always look back on that and just think, if only then I'd had a sugar daddy that could have slipped me a £300 to buy a James Sheen painting. So there you go. Did I buy you enough time there, John? Have you got your answer yet?
Yeah, I forgot what the question. No. That's amazing that you had that opportunity, but like I genuinely feel like sad for you. That's quite
It genuinely haunts
heartbreaking.
me. Yeah, and we're not like really in touch anymore. And like, kind of, he doesn't follow me any. Like, I think kind of like I'm a long distant memory that he's forgotten, but he haunts me.
Wow. I would spend the money from the sugar daddy on something not well, it's in the same ballpark. I would actually buy, or I suppose invest in, a big studio space for artists.
Nice, nice.
So in Leeds where I live, so I've got a studio at the minute that I share with three other people, and studio space, like, historically, is difficult to come by. And I've over the years I've kind of moved into, I've had maybe like six or seven different studios in Leeds, because they're always in kind of shitty abandoned warehouses that are being reused, but then because of gentrification they quickly turn into flats. So I would invest the money in affordable artist studios with some kind of comics focus. Not exclusively, because there's there's not enough comic artists in Leeds for that. But yeah, I'd like to do something like that. And then I can buy all of the artwork cheap from the up and coming artists. And then yeah, and
And
then
then
do it that
kill
way.
them.
And then
And
kill
then
them.
and then that art is worth more money. Boom! We brought it right back. We're pros.
Yeah, a murder factory. That's
Yeah.
what I'm gonna make.
Sustainability, so important.
Yeah.
But now that we've drawn the entire circle here, you are both here to talk about The Patron, which is your new Ignition Press series launching July 29th with lettering by Hassan Asmadelhau. Matt, I want you to paint me like one of your French girls.
A true patron of the fine arts, Mr. Cherish has dedicated his life to scouting and supporting emerging artists, launching countless unknowns from obscurity into industry superstardom. Unfortunately for these young artists, the secret of Cherish's success is their untimely demise. Nothing makes a work of art more desirable and valuable to collectors than the passing of its creator, and Cherish has refined his ability to orchestrate speculator tragedies without leaving a trace before selling his dead protege's oeuvres for massive profits. Painter Matty Barnes is primed to become Cherish's next hit. But when the script is flipped on this latest murder, a posthumous twist calls the artist's fate and legacy into question, putting the patron's empire in the dueling crosshairs of law enforcement and merciless third-party connoisseur.
Sounds good. That does
Yeah.
sound good, doesn't it? I might
That's
get
it, yeah.
that. I might get
Also,
that.
that was read beautifully. Like that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Have you thought about sideline in audiobooks?
Yeah.
Not the first one to say that.
So I imagine this is a well-told tale at this point. But what's the origin of this project? You know, how far back does this go for the both of you?
Right, I'm gonna throw the ball up, John, and then you can.
Go for it. Yep.
I mean, that doesn't work on a podcast, does it? That was me hitting the baseball. That's how much I know about baseball. I
I'm
presume
gonna
that's the
layer in
sound it
audio
makes.
over that, but instead of
Rounders.
a baseball sound, it's going to be the AOL Instant Messenger door slamming.
Yeah. Oh, don't. I need to forget. Okay. Yes. So basically, I mean, as you may or may not be able to pick up, me and John are friends, and we've known each other for years. Mutual fans of each other's work. I mean, I'm a fan of John's work. I don't know. I presume, he liked my work. I don't know. He might not, but let's presume he does.
I'll
And
keep you guessing.
yeah. And we every year we do Thought Bubble, which is an amazing comic convention here in the UK. My favorite convention I go to. Period. And we were out one Thought Bubble having a nice curry, and we were just myself and John have a kind of similar background beyond comics. We were both kind of like we dabbled in kind of fine art painting. We've both been art educators, so we've got a lot of shared kind of history. And we were kind of sort of talking about art and kind of in a much broader sense than just comic book art. And then John, let me throw the ball up, said,
Oh,
and then John said,
I said verbally hitting the ball.
yeah.
So yeah, so I was recounting a story. Well, not a story. Like one of my friends who collects my artwork, he always jokes about how my artwork will be his retirement, but only when I die, because that's the only time it will become worth anything. And he always talks about this, but he always kind of does it with a knowing wink of just like, better hurry up and die. And then this was Christian just kind of lit up. He was like, "That's it. That's the idea." And then from that, it kind of blossomed into this series. So it was the idea of an art collector killing his artist, coupled with our shared backgrounds, our love of art and creativity, and it was just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing I would say about the Patron. As much as it is a page turner. I mean, the cliffhangers in the Patron are fantastic. If I do say so myself, and and it is designed. It's kind of Hitchcockian. It kind of feels a bit like a kind of Korean thriller in a way that you don't really know which way it's going to turn. But it is very much built on that foundation of me and John sort of talking about art, and in each issue is kind of like a different facet of art and how art surrounds all of us and improves all of our lives, whether you're, and we're not talking about kind of fine art here. We're talking about literally any visuals, going to the supermarket and all the packages are designed by somebody. You sit in your car, that's been designed by somebody. You go to the cinema and watch a movie, there's a huge art department involved in that. Art is everywhere. And even though our book kind of starts off and is centered around the kind of the fine art world, the kind of the thesis of the book is far wider than that. And that's, that brings in both mine and John's experiences, and in the cold opening, particularly if you gentlemen have read that or anyone else has read it, it's kind of out there in the world now. That's very much about like our experiences. And there's bits in that are literally autobiographical about me teaching art to kind of 16-year-olds in the East End of London, and kind of what that was like. So it is first and foremost built to entertain, but it's also easily my most personal book that I've ever done.
Fine. How did it land at Ignition? Was there a shopping around for this one, or how did it find its home?
I mean, so basically, from that point where we had when the light bulb went off, that was the hook. So the idea of this thing, but it wasn't a story, and it took me 2 years of kind of thinking about what is the story and like how's it. I wanted it to be, and anyone who's when people read issue one, will realize that what you think is the story isn't exactly the story. It's going to go in a really interesting, surprising way. And it took a while for that to happen and to kind of like come together. And when it did, we were both really thrilled with the potential of the book. And obviously we wanted a good publishing partner to kind of put it out. And we talked about lots of different places. I mean, I think kind of the reason why we kind of went with Ignition, they were, it's always quite fun to try a new publisher. There's always a sense of excitement that comes with a new publisher. I get excited when a new publisher comes on the scene because you're just like, what are they going to bring to the market? And what sort of titles are they going to bring? And every publisher will have its own kind of taste. And so it was quite appealing to sort of like partner with Ignition and be one of their first books. We're one of the first books of their first year, and that's incredibly gratifying, and it's really cool. So that was a big pull. I knew Maggie, who's our editor who works there, she was the other. Basically, she was the real thing that was just like, that's where we want to go. Because me and Maggie have kind of like missed each other. We've almost worked together multiple times, and she's an absolutely superb editor. I mean, one of the best in the industry. She was going to be our mine and Ram's editor on Aquaman Andromeda. I started the book, and she left. No connection. And then she was one of the people responsible for bringing Event Horizon over to IDW, and then she left. And so it was like third time's a charm. And obviously, doing a creator own book is really different to you doing a license or a kind of like work for hire book, because it's your baby and it's yours. And I knew I wanted to work with an editor who I held in really high regard. So there was that, and like very, very bluntly, they paid a good page rate, and I wanted to make sure that John had a good page rate, so that he could, get some of that sugar daddy money.
You're my sugar daddy, aren't you?
I know I am, but I do it.
Yeah.
I do it for I get other people to give you the money, but I'm the one pulling the strings.
The sugar middleman, if you will. So I was curious, you mentioned the cold open issue, which, obviously gets in, kind of gives you a taste for what the premise of the book is, or what you want readers to think it is going into the first issue. Presumably this helped boost pre-orders ahead of FOC, or whatever sort of the marketing side of it thought. How far into the process of making the Patron were you both when the cold open idea entered the mix, and how did you find, or how have you found that it helped, in these last few weeks?
I mean, the cold open was always part of the plan. So when when the book was greenlit, it's basically, we did the cold open first. So we did that before we did anything else. And so when I wrote cold open, it was very much, the cold open kind of worked in the fact that it kind of, when you kind of write an academic essay, and you start your academic essay and you say, in this essay, I'm going to explore blah, 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 blah. And I hope to discover blah, 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 blah. That's what the cold open was for us. It was it is a self-contained kind of like quite a cool little short story that does work on its own. But from a larger point of view, it was almost like the start of our essay, the start of our thesis. It was, in this series, we will discuss art and a side serving of murder. It was really about that kind of like, this is what to expect. This is the stakes that we're kind of like setting out. And it was always, it wasn't like an add-on. It was very much, designed that way. I really enjoyed. I mean, like the cold open is one of my favorite things I've ever written. I mean, it was like, I remember Maggie sent the script back, this is not usual. But she was just like, no notes. And that was amazing. It was just, I mean, really, the whole project has been very smooth. But I think it's been smooth because it's kind of, without being too kind of saccharine about it, I think this book's kind of come from our heart. So it's very, we really, it's really, we're really passionate about it. And we're not doing it, apart from getting John's sugar daddy money, we're not kind of doing it for any other reason than it's a story that we really want to tell. Um, so yeah, so it was very smooth to kind of do that cold open as that introduction, and then move on to kind of like issue one, which kind of sets things up, and then really sets things up.
I think as well it served as an excellent opportunity to establish the flavor of the world that we were working in. So from an art point of view, it was great because it allowed me to kind of test out some things and figure out the look and the feel of what the series is going to be, in a less pressurized way than you're trying to do that as you're kind of going into the first issue. And I think because it is self-contained, but it is also part of the large world and introducing kind of one of the main characters. Um, it was great just for playing with that flavor and kind of getting to what it was, what the essence of the series is, and what we want to show to a reader in a very short kind of 12 pages. So they read it and they're like, oh, this series is about this. Great, I want to read more of it. And I agree with Christian. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done is that cold open. It was such a pleasure to do. Um, yeah, it was wonderful to do that. And then yeah, I think it was nice as well for us as a collaboration, like me getting that first script through and then sending the artwork back, and then both of us from that point onwards, like, okay, so this is how we work together, and this is what we expect from each other,
Mhm.
and it's again, it's good to have that before you're starting on the main series properly.
There was
Yeah, we're not
one.
friends anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I got it through. I was like, what is this shit?
It's like when two people are friends in like their early 20s and they're like, we could move in together. We're the best roommates. And no. But instead you made a comic. But there was one panel in the cold open that caught my eye when I was rereading it this morning, where there's a scene where the narrating artist is talking about being a teacher, and I know you've both worked in art education. My eye was drawn to this one panel where a child has drawn, uh, I don't know if there's another term for it, but I've always called it the cool S. The one that's sort of like, yeah, okay, John's got it. And I was at a Super Bowl party earlier this year at a friend's house, and her daughter's drawings were all over the fridge, and one of them had the cool S on it. And I had that same sort of reaction where I was like, the kids are gonna be all right.
Yeah.
I think you're the first person that's mentioned that actually. Like, I don't know if that was something that would translate, obviously in the UK, but especially when I was a kid. It's like, oh yeah, have you seen how you draw this cool S or whatever? Um, but yeah, I think that was probably more of a little Easter egg just for me, I guess. But yeah, I'm glad that resonated with you. Um, but like I said to Christian as well, when I got that script through for that scene, that was quite harrowing for me because I related so much to that, having taught as well at that age level.
Mhm.
And it was weirdly, out of all the horror stuff I've done, that was one of the things that scared me the most, was kind of doing that, and then it was like a PTSD experience and reliving it. But yeah, it's and I think as well that's one of the things that makes this series hopefully resonate so much, is because it is coming from our hearts and souls and our experiences and the pains and passions that we have when it comes to art and education. And yeah, the teaching part of it is a special flavor of hell, I think.
It's interesting. The artists in this story, they're all for as much page time as any of them gets before they meet their untimely end, they're trapped between this sort of rock and a hard place where on the one hand, we talk about how AI is coming for their jobs or whatever little livelihood they've been able to eke out. And then on the other, this man is offering salvation, but he's a wolf at the door, basically, in Mr. Cherish. And I'm curious, and especially the teaching scene kind of uh addresses this head on, how do you stay hopeful about art and making art and making a living off of art in the face of all of that?
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, like I'll speak for myself here, and then John can speak for himself. But I feel very lucky and very privileged. And I've been working in kind of like doing professional comics for almost 20 years now. And for 15 of those, I've been full time and making a steadily decent wage going kind of up. And the last few years has been really good. At the moment, touch wood, I do really well. Um, but I'm always conscious. I think about the ladder. I'm in this place, but it's not just about me. I mean, my daughter, well, both my daughters are showing quite a keen interest in art. They're not at the point where, I mean, they're 9 and 6, and they're not at the point at the moment where it's beyond just a thing they do for fun because they love it. But I often do think about, well, what is the world going to look like for them should they decide to kind of follow it as a career path? I mean, I remember when I started in kind of like trying to kind of eke out a kind of um, a career in art. And originally, I was going to be a fine artist, and then I moved to London in 2000, and I was so poor, like really poor. But me and some other artist friends, we lived in a house in South London, and it was a 5-bedroom house, and it was £750 a month. I mean, and that's why we could do it because it was, I'd saved up a load of money while I lived at home, and that bought me basically a year where I could afford rent for a year, and to live, with a small budget, and then it didn't work out, and I got like a job in a shop, and then it kind of went from there. But I think about people going into art now, like if I was me now, if I was, a 20-year-old now and I wanted to do that, it would be impossible. There's no way I could afford to kind of go and live in a city, and kind of do that. But also the world's changed. And that was something I very much had in mind when I was writing this book, because I didn't want to feel like kind of like an old man shouting at the clouds, because the internet did not exist when I kind of started my career. It didn't, and it didn't come in for another couple of years, and when the aforementioned kind of AOL started, and it's so in a way it's I don't really know all the pathways that someone would take into that career now. And often when people come to me at Thought Bubble or other conventions and ask for my advice, I always kind of preface it with, "This was my journey, but it won't be yours, and this is what you could learn from me, but you can learn from other people as well. So this is not the only path," sort of thing. But I do worry about AI. I worry about capitalism as much as I do about AI. As much as it's the beast that kind of feeds us, it's also the beast that kind of can eat you, and make things really difficult. Um, so it's hard. I will say this. I think AI poses more of a problem with reality, and kind of how we perceive information, news, and all that stuff, than it does to art. I think kind of people by and large kind of reject AI art. So I'm hopeful in that. I think that's a fad that won't really latch on. But again, you know, like I'm also aware that maybe am I speaking from a place of privilege? You know, is it knocking out smaller jobs that people would have done to start off? Possibly. So yeah, it is a worry. And obviously a lot of that anxiety is in this book.
I think so. Up until like very recently, I was working full time in comics, but also I was a university lecturer teaching comics. So when it comes to people entering not only our profession but a creative profession in general, it is it's weird. It's simultaneously harder than ever, but it feels like younger generations, and I don't know whether that's because a lot of the kids at university now, their parents are our ages, but it's a very different perspective I find than when I went to university. I was lucky, like my mum was incredibly supportive and really pushed me to do art. But I know generally speaking, that's not so much the case. People historically see art as not something you get a career in. But there does feel, from my perspective, to be a shift towards older generations realizing that their kids can pursue a career in the arts. And I think that's probably due to a couple of things. It is the internet. You can go online and you can generate a following and you can sell things internationally from your bedroom, which is something I would never have dreamt of when I was a kid. But also because of that, it's much easier to find communities that you associate with online, and that seeps through into the real world. So you only have to go to any convention, and there'll be meetups for different fandoms. And more and more so when I go to conventions, that's the main thing. And it's amazing to see that people are there because of the communities that they're part of and the communities they've built. And then that will trickle on to them making things and selling things to those communities. And it's either comics or comics adjacent, but it's still part of these kind of creative industries. So I think when it comes to things like the internet and going into the profession, it is there, but it's just very different. I don't think people nowadays see it as you have to get a job and do this, like when we were kids. Now it's like, well, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll do that, and I can support myself and make art, and I'm happy doing that. And I think that's completely reasonable and realistic for people. And I think there's more and more of a supportive network from peers, from parents, going into that. And then that's how people get more hype and more work is they'll do those things and then they're in this creative safety net. They'll do more and more work and then they'll get more recognition, then they'll do more work and it just snowballs. So it's from my perspective, I'm genuinely excited and hopeful for the future of creative individuals. It's just a very different thing from what I grew up with and what we grew up with. And that's a very short period of time. If I do say so myself, I'm not that old. But it's refreshing to see for me. And that's not only just in the city that I live in, but going around traveling to different conventions worldwide, you see it everywhere. Um, and it's that type of thing when like Christian was saying, when it comes to capitalism, that's the type of thing that will it won't be able to put a damper on that because you're selling to people who are the same as you. I think when it comes to things like capitalism, that affects our education now because a lot of higher education establishments are just quickly turning into like farms. It's like pay us this extortionate amount of money. We don't care if you get a job, leave. And yeah, so yeah, it's a drastically changing landscape.
So when you're cycling through all these different artists in Mr. Cherish's body count through the cold open in the first issue, how did you land on Maddie Barnes? Not as sometimes I put phrases in and I know they're not the right phrase. I put the final girl here, but it's the first issue, so that's not true. But as the artist closest to sort of the inciting event of the series?
I can answer that really easily. He's based on John. Next question. Yeah, no, I always, it's I have to think, I have to kind of tread carefully because, because there's stuff that I don't want to reveal yet. But like a big part of Matty is I wanted a rock star artist. This guy that was in many ways kind of didn't necessarily need Cherish's work, and there's other reasons which you'll kind of discover why he kind of like did need Cherish or kind of was lured by Cherish. But actually he was, he's charismatic, he's kind of sexy, he's a rock star, and he's got like kind of the look that actually if he'd gone out there on his own, he could have made it because he's got the kind of like the look that kind of like would kind of like sell his artwork. So really that was the thing. It was the irony that out of the people that we meet, he's because a lot of the artists that we meet in the cold open, and I'm thinking particularly about the celebrity, the actor, like they're not that great, but like the idea is that actually, Matty, he is a good artist, and his work is good, and he has the look, so he's kind of got all the ingredients, but it's just him, personality, you know, you'll discover it. Why he kind of like didn't make it. And so that was it really. It was the irony that he was a skilled artist and the tragedy of that, obviously.
John, because you've got all these different artists, you're working with sort of like media in media, which is always a tricky thing. And considering how many artists meet their end at the hands of Mr. Cherish just in the space of that, issue and a half there, how was coming up with styles and paintings and all that for all of his different victims?
It's it's so much fun. So all of the paintings you see in the series are done separately, and then they are kind of scanned in and then placed in there. So all of those paintings exist on their own as well. Not to the size they are in the comic, that would be absolutely insane, but they are all their own individual pieces. So I've got kind of the stack of the original artwork and then a stack of the original artwork within the artwork. And it's great. So I've got to go from things like the paintings that are Matt's, and then in the cold open, you've got ones like the kind of the celebrity. So when we did the cold open, Christian was like, "Oh, the celebrities that they think they're artists and they have a big gallery show, but it's really shit. It's that type of thing."
Mm.
So it's like, oh, okay, so I have to paint something terrible that's in that style. And it is so much fun. So I've been kind of painting the little posters you see behind things, like just everything. And it's great. I'd like it's not a spoiler, but like at some point later on, there's kids' pictures on a fridge that I did, and it's it's incredibly hard to draw something like undo what you've learned to then draw like that. But yeah, it's so refreshing for me as an artist. It's so refreshing. There's such a challenge where it's like, oh well, this is how I normally do things, but do it like 12 different people in this issue. Um, and yeah, I love it. So yeah, so all of those images are uh, totally based on the type of character, the type of person it is that produces them, but they're all done with me. On a side note from that, at San Diego in a couple of weeks, we're doing an exhibition of some of those pieces as well, some of Matty's pieces. So yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun.
That's that's really neat. Have you ever done anything like the collage, I guess is for want of a better term, in your art with the art within the art like that before, or is this something you came up with for this?
I mean, I've done bits of collage in the past, but not like this, where it's different pieces of artwork I've done of different styles that are then collaged in specifically for the narrative like this. Um, so that's kind of an evolution of things that I've done in the past, but nothing quite like this. And it's it's really fun. I think it's definitely something that I'll take forward into different things if it works. Um, but yeah, I mean that's also why my cover for the first issue of Cherish that's all made up of the different art styles. So that's physically collaged. They're all done on individual pieces, then collaged to make him. So it's narratively, obviously, it's like the artwork's making him up, but then also it's part of the context of the process of the series as well.
You're you're both doing covers for the book. You've just talked about yours, but how much are you coordinating your cover ideas, or is there more of a friendly one-upmanship of your covers?
I wouldn't say there's. I don't think there's a one-upmanship. I mean, it's not on my side. I mean, I think I mean, it's funny because like I think our work is quite different,
Mhm.
but also we've got similar kind of like points where we're like we like similar things. So there's this strange kind of connective DNA, but you side by side, very different. John's very kind of like, far more fine art. Mine's fully digital. Um, I don't really think kind of, I mean, obviously we send our roughs in, but I think apart from one cover for issue 3, where Maggie didn't really like what I came up with, so I came up with something new, and we've basically just been, I think we've just been doing what we want,
Yeah,
really. I think kind of like we're both kind of like we're both known for being cover artists. We both know what we're doing. We both know what it is we want out of the cover. We both know the story really well. And I think kind of there's not really any sense that, at least from my point of view, I don't think there's any worry that we're going to tread on each other's toes, because even if we did the same image, which we would never naturally do anyway, but even if we were to do the same image, it would look completely different.
yeah.
They could easily stand side by side. I mean, I think kind of John's work is far more. Um, I don't know how to describe. I mean, like he likes to kind of do things a bit more, almost like a visual metaphor. He uses a lot of kind of visual metaphors in his work, and like the kind of like the collage face. And there's a really cool cover coming up that he did with a kind of potato print. Um, and my stuff's a bit more shallow, just like that looks fucking cool. That's what I'm always aiming for. It's like, oh yeah, it looks fucking cool. That'll jump off the shelf. Do you know what I mean? Like that. It's much more like kind of like yeah. So
I
no,
mean,
I think we've
yeah, I
gone.
was gonna say I think like with you as well, because I'm asking you a question here. Because you're writing this, does that give you a different perspective when it comes to the covers? Because you do a lot of covers anyway, but for this one,
Yeah.
it's like you know more than anybody what each issue is about. So when you come to
Mm.
do the cover art, that's like your opportunity to encapsulate all of that in a single image. Don't know if that makes it any different, because I know
Yeah, no, yeah,
because I feel like yours are very much, they're kind of narrative driven, whereas mine are more process driven, and that seems to
yeah,
reflect on our two different
yeah,
roles.
yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I mean, mine are I mean, I think mine are kind of, they'll often be a kind of like a character piece, although issue issue 4 and 5 less
Yeah, though.
so.
Yeah.
Issue 4 is probably my favorite cover that I've done in a long while. It's
Yeah.
really cool. And it's just it's covers are really easy for me. And I don't mean to, but I just like, whenever I'm stressed about writing, or if I'm drawing a comic page, like I'll just be like, I'll just blow some cobwebs and I'll just do a cover because they're just fun. So I will literally do a cover in an afternoon. Um, and they're always quite. I just see what they look like in my head and I just do them. So it's. I mean, this whole project's been really smooth. Like it's been really easy. We've not really hit. I don't think we've hit any bumps in the road at all. Um, and the covers have followed suit. Really, they've just been a real pleasure, and it's been really nice to sort of see John's come in, and sort of see what he does, and I think kind of like knowing that I mean, I know that Maggie's been really thrilled with both of our covers, and they kind of complement each other in some way.
Yeah.
And I think kind of like in a way, this is what I think actually. My covers are kind of like very much about the thriller element of it. And John's covers are very much about the heart and soul of it, and like kind of really digging deep about what is this about,
Yeah.
and they're a little bit more kind of like they'll make you think a little bit more than perhaps mine will, but still really cool and striking because it's John's work, and John's work is cool and striking.
Yeah.
But no, yeah,
I guess I think when I do, especially the covers for this, I often do things that mean so much to me that chances are nobody else will even know. Like so in issue 3, there's a a, something to do with potato printing. So on the cover part of it, I made with a potato and kind of use that as a tool. But you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you had a conversation with me. And I think part of me likes that because at conventions or meeting people, I love chatting about the art and I love chatting about the process. But I don't know, it gives me personal satisfaction when I'm like, yeah, that's representative of this story and the artwork through how I've done it. But yeah, and also I think as well, I think for this series because I'm doing the B covers and Chris is doing the A covers, it's like slightly less pressure on me, so I can kind of play and just be like, yeah, I'm doing this with potato, whatever, like. But yeah, but they do complement each other so much. And yeah, I've not really thought about our two covers together until this point. That's actually quite interesting.
Well, I want to spend a little bit of time at this point. You both have other things that you got coming out or are working on independently of each other. Christian, how has it been kind of carving out new lore for Event Horizon over at IDW?
amazing. I'm like it's it's I love that film, and I remember seeing that film when I was like 17 when it came out. No, 21 when it came out, and loving it at the time, and being given the keys to it and being trusted with the keys to it. It's been just really cool, and it's like I mean I don't really approach Event Horizon any differently than I've approached the Patron or Forever Home, my next Crowman book, and I've been taking really wild swings with it, and sort of sending the kind of the pitches off to Paramount and Philip Eisner, who's the original screenwriter, and they've just been like brilliant, no notes, like amazing, like so it's been really cool, like every kind of crazy idea I've had has just they've just been like, yeah, go for it. Like there's an issue coming up, issue 4 of Inferno, which comes out early August, I believe. It's the craziest thing I've ever written. Like as there's no way they're gonna let me do it. And it's mental. And like Rob Carey, who's our artist on this series, has drawn the hell out of it. And yeah, it's really cool. It's just really fun, and I think that's the thing. Like, I'm very privileged in the fact that most of my income comes from me being an artist, and covers and sequentials and stuff. So that like the writing is kind of for fun because I've always wanted to tell stories. I've always wanted to write, so I can be really picky about what I do. I've turned quite a lot down because I'm just like, well, I don't connect with it, or I've got nothing to say with that, or I want to focus on like Crown or whatever. And so, like anything that I put out, whether it be Two Face or Batman City of Madness or Event Horizon or the Patron or Forever Home, it's I feel like I can talk about it passionately because I know it's good because I wouldn't have done it if I couldn't have done it my way. I've been very fortunate that I don't have to kind of like pigeonhole myself too much because if I get the sense that I have to dilute myself into whatever comic I'm writing, I just don't do it. So yeah, it's been really fun. It's been really great to have had a really cool response from the fans that love the film like I do. It's also been great to kind of bring people to the franchise that have never heard of it, and now have kind of discovered the film after reading the book. Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's been really good. And there might be, I mean, I can't say, but there might be an announcement or two at San Diego. I mean, I can't say. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I should say that. I've said it now.
That's the thing
You
about
said there
recording a
may or
show.
may not be.
Yeah, that's the thing about
I love it
recording
if
a
there's
show in
not.
July.
No,
br-
just go, but I don't care.
we bring guests on, and like you can tell they're on the precipice of announcing something, and they have to be cryptic and vague, and they can't talk about it yet. The best, my favorite, is when we have a recording the Monday before San Diego, because that's the biggest crapshoot, right? Because the episode comes out a week later, so the news will have come out, and we're trying to just be like, so listen, this episode comes out in a week. It will be the future. It will be the Tuesday after San Diego. Is there anything you want to tell us? And then like the announcement comes out, like I don't know, 1 maybe 2 days later. Matt and I are just messaging each other like, damn it.
Ugh. And every time we won't say anything, we swear. Journalistic integrity. We're fanboys, but we're journalistic integrity first, please.
Yeah, but it's the first week of July. That's not happening right now.
Right. And you mentioned it, but Forever Home is coming from Oni with Sammy Cavella. And
Mhm.
Sammy was the artist on your first writing gig on Tommy Gun
Well,
Wizards.
well researched. Yes, he was. Yeah, which was 7 years ago now, which is crazy. And I adore. I mean, I've been really lucky. I've not worked with like all the artists I've worked with, apart from Pearson. All the artists I've worked with have been, I've been really spoiled. But like Sammy kind of holds a really, I'm going to be really soppy here, a really special place in my heart, really, because like at the time, like I'd never written anything. I mean, I'd written a few shorts here and there, but I'd never written a series, it's a cliche kind of artist, right? And it's sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. Sometimes they're okay and sometimes they're great or whatever. And like Sammy had no idea if I was going to be able to write or be decent. And when you're working with a writer, you put your reputation on the line, because if you work with a really bad writer, it kind of pulls you down. The whole your path as a successful artist is really a lot of it is just like, who do I work with, and like, and what you want to do is you want to do like step, and get up to the top or whatever. So Sammy took a real leap of faith with me, and that man, like, I don't know why he's not a huge star. Like, genuinely, I don't understand it, because he is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what he does with a page is mind blowing. I mean, he's very similar to kind of Hayden Sherman, that draws Absolute Wonder Woman. And Hayden's brilliant, and it's great to see them having this, all the platitudes and like really blowing up. And I've been surprised that Sammy hasn't had a similar thing happen to him, because he's really good. And so from working with him 7 years ago on Machine Gun Wizards, it was, I've been really wanting to work with him again, and just really thinking about, would that be a good idea for Sammy? No, it's not good enough. No, it's too derivative, or I'm not. I'm not saying anything with it, I'm not passionate about it. And then I kind of came up with the idea for the Forever Home about 2 years ago. And just the quick elevator pitch is basically, it's about a home that's built to withstand climate change, but they find out that it actually withstands time. And it's all about like climate change, and how lots of nations are kind of bringing up the drawbridge, and there's all this fear about immigration. It's about billionaire climate bunkers and all that thing, but it's in a really kind of like high concept kind of you know horror sci-fi. And Sammy's absolutely killed it again. And so it's been a real thrill to kind of like reteam with him. And yeah, we were really excited about it. And I feel like what with the Patron and Forever Home coming out within a few months of each other, it feels like a really good wham wham, because they're both my babies. They're both as good as each other, but they're both very different. I mean, the thing that I really loved about working with John on the Patron, and we talked about this when we were doing it, was a lot of my ideas are very much based in horror, and a few of them kind of sci-fi horror. And I really wanted to challenge myself. I think, could I still do a kind of page turner and something that's really going to kind of engage people and be thrilling without the kind of the crux of anything can happen, that you get in sci-fi horror, and just really like everything has to be based in reality, and is it still going to be as exciting if we're literally just talking about people? So that was, that's the thrill of working on the Patron. But yes, it's really excited about both books, and I'm hoping that it's going to be the hype of one will feed to the other and vice versa, and it'll just what's the term? One tide raises all ships.
Meanwhile, John, you have a new book, Smart Division, with Zach Kaplan debuting from Dark Horse next month.
Yeah.
First question. Have you discovered the secret of not sleeping to get both of these done? And can you share that? Or was there a nice lag to allow you to be able to get them both out?
There's a bit of a crossover, but I mean, especially with the Patron, we had quite a big lead in to this, so there's quite far ahead with that. But also I think it helps the both approaches, the similarities in them, whilst the context is very different. So I'm painting both of them, but with the Patron, it's about the process and the kind of the art side of it and the experimentation. But with Smart Division, the story's about AI. So it's about having something that contrasts with the story that's being told and rooting the reader in something visual that is against kind of the narrative. And the importance of having those real visuals against kind of this discussion with AI. So yeah, and plus now I um I work really fast now, so it's yeah, so it's good, but yeah, I think it's definitely been a learning curve. But yeah, and it's exciting as well because again, similar to what Christian said, having both of these series come out really close to each other, like you can't escape me. So that's hopefully you're kind of looking like, oh, who's painted that? Oh my God, it's John.
That's the name of my new image book. Oh my God, it's John.
I would read that book. So as we enter the wind down, do either of you have a local comic shop or a favorite comic shop that you'd like to get a shout out for?
I mean, like, I would say two. I mean, like, kind of like when I was in, I alluded to that kind of my very kind of like poverty-stricken kind of like life in London in the early 2000s. If it wasn't for Gosh Comics in London, which were at the time was opposite the British Museum and then moved to Soho. I mean, I've talked about this publicly on social media. They are the reason why I'm about basically and in comics because they kind of were a real lifeline to me. So that would be one. And the other one is a comic book store, new comic book store that's perhaps a shout out would do more for them than it would do for Gosh. It called Secret Identity in Chester, which is basically not my town, but like the next town along. Like it's like a 40-minute train ride away. And it's run by a guy called Andy Smith, who's absolutely fantastic. And anyone that's listening to this needs to go to the Secret Identity Instagram account. Doesn't matter if you're local or not, but because his social media game is on point. The guy's so funny and so passionate about comics. He puts out videos all the time. They're often really funny. I've done multiple signings there purely because like his announcement videos for the signings are always like they're like a little production. So I would, Secret Identity in Chester. He's a little indie store. He really loves the industry. He's very passionate about it. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I think for me it would be OK Comics in Leeds. Like absolutely fantastic store, and it's tiny as well, but that doesn't stop them from supporting the local comics community. They've had things like lending libraries. They really support local creators as well. They have signings there all the time. It's just phenomenal. The work they do there is excellent. Um, and every time you go in, there's always somebody in there who is looking for recommendations, and you hear the conversations that everybody that works in that shop has with these people, and the passion there is second to none. They are just giving people lists of comics, recommendations, and it's all absolutely sensational. So yeah, OK Comics and Leeds, and
Yeah,
I think a
brilliant.
lot of people know OK Comics as well. It's a very renowned store.
What is a comic from another creator, and you can't name each other's comics, that you're really enjoying right now?
You don't read comics when you're making comics.
That's so true.
That is a fair answer.
That
You're
is
not the first
so
one to
true.
say that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I love comics, but like, God, it's just like I buy comics every week, and it's just like I never get to them. And then like your friends send you PDFs, and you're like, oh God, like I'm with it. I mean, I love like Patrick Hovarth is a dear friend of mine, and I love his book. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
mean, not that he needs a bloody shout out. I mean, Christ, like Patrick, who beneath the trees while. I mean, but that that book's fantastic. Actually, I tell you what, I will say that I'm really enjoying. This is a bit more contemporary. I'm loving the new Dead Man run. I think that's really really
Mhm.
fun. By Maxwell Prince and oh,
Martin Morazzo.
Martin Morris. Yeah, yeah, that's brilliant. But again, they probably don't need the shout out. But those are two books I'm really loving.
I think for me, I recently read Everything Dead and Dying, which I absolutely adored. Again, I'm a big horror fan, so it was interesting seeing a slightly different take on the zombie tropes. And Jake's work in it is just phenomenal. He is definitely not fallen far from the tree with the his artistic ability, but he's just like going from strength to strength, and that series was just phenomenal. Really, really enjoyed that. And also I'm late to the game, but I've just started reading Absolute Batman. Because the amount of people again at conventions I've met who have just gone and it's their first convention because Absolute Line has brought them into comics
Yeah,
is astounding. I think that line has done more for comics
yeah.
than anything in a long, long time.
Bravo,
And it's great.
Scott.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's
Yeah,
well deserved.
yeah, very much so.
Before we go, is there anything else that either of you needs to plug that we haven't gotten to talk about in the last little bit, whether it's other work or signings, appearances, anything like that?
No, I mean, I think the main thing is we will both be at San Diego, as John's kind of alluded to. We'll have the the Patron exhibition at Ignition Press Pavilion, that little offsite thing. I'll be signing with Oni. I'll be signing with Ignition, an IDW on an IDW panel. Don't know why I'm on the panel. I mean, like, I don't know what. I'm on the panel for whatever reason. Uh, um, uh, um, yeah. So yeah, I will be at San Diego. It's my first time back in like almost 20 years. I was there when I did my first ever image book 18 years ago. So come and see me West Coast because I'm not there often. Yeah.
I'll be at San Diego for the first time ever. I've never been to San Diego before, so I'm equal measures excited and terrified. As well as the exhibition that we mentioned, I'll be doing live painting in the Ignition Pavilion. And I've also got a spotlight panel where I'll be just talking about the artwork and the approaches for both the Patron and the Smart Division. So come on to that if you're interested in what I do and want to learn more about the me using potatoes and other fascinating tales. But yeah, I'll be doing a kind of in-depth kind of look and talk through about my process for both series. So yeah, and I'll be doing sign-ins with Christian. I'll be doing some sign-ins with Zach as well, and a bunch of panels and other stuff. But you can find all this on social media. If not now, soon.
That's excellent. Well, John Christian, this has been a fantastic time. Final question as we release you back into the world. How should people follow you online to keep up with the Patron and everything that you both respectively have going on?
I'm at sugardaddy.com. Oh no, that's my other account. I'm CJ Ward Art on Instagram, and I think something similar on Blue Sky. I think it's like if you search for me on Blue Sky, I'm there. But yeah, I'm not. That's the only place I am.
You can find me at John J. Pearson, predominantly Instagram. I'm also on Blue Sky. You can also follow me for free on Patron.
Oh,
Where you can look at
kill
more.
you.
Where you can see me die. No, you can. I sporadically post updates and processes and stuff. Obviously, I've been insanely busy at the minute, so it's a little bit less frequent than I'd like. But it's free, so you can't complain.
John Christian, thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you
having us.
having us. So British.
That's it for this week's show. As a reminder, you can find the Comics XF interview podcast at Comics XF, along with our sister podcasts, Battle of the Atom and Bat Chat with Matt and Will. You can listen to the Comics XF interview podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, Audible, and at comicsxf.com, where new episodes move Tuesday mornings. You can support Comics XF at patreon.com/comicsxf, where a $1 donation gets you a shout out at the end of every episode of the Comics XF interview podcast. A $2 donation gets you early access to this podcast and a shout out at the end of every episode. A $3 donation gets you access to our monthly bonus podcast, Our Son Pete, a deep dive into the comic appearances of British mutant super spy Pete Wisdom. A $5 donation gets you access to Our Son Pete and a Pete Wisdom Hawklaw sticker designed by Kevin Newburn, or an update to the Xavier Files Mutant Master Rankings at Comics XF. A $25 donation lets you request a primer, one of our custom reading guides for a series, character, or creator, and a $50 donation lets you advertise on the show. You can also go to patreon.com/comicsxf to order copies of the Comics XF zine, featuring some of the best articles from the history of the site. Digital copies are $10, physical copies are $15, and supplies are limited. Big thanks to our patrons: Kaylee Post, Nathan Elwood, Mark Danielson, Silas X, Jack Adams, Sean Shambly, Matt McThorne, Buddy Nooning, Jake Murray, Zach Quaintance, Joel Elod, Lisa Slack, Will Redman, Tobias Carroll, Liz Large, Asimov Fangirl, Carla Pacheco, and Shelf Dust. You're all special, and we love you. You can follow Comics XF on Blue Sky, X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram at Comics XF. Me at Daniel P. Grote on Blue Sky, and Matt Lazowitz at MattLaz1013 on Blue Sky. And until next week, remember, Batman co-creator Bob Kane's gravestone says the following: God bestowed a dream upon Bob Kane. Blessed with divine inspiration and rich imagination, Bob created a legacy known as Batman. Introduced in a May 1939 comic book, Batman grew from a tiny acorn into an American icon. A hand of God creation, Batman and his world personified the eternal struggle of good versus evil, with God's laws prevailing in the end. Bob Kane, Bruce Wayne, Batman, they are one and the same. Bob infused his dual identity character with his own attributes: goodness, kindness, compassion, sensitivity, generosity, intelligence, integrity, courage, purity of spirit, a love for all mankind. Batman is known as the Dark Knight, but through his deeds he walks in the light of a higher power, as did his creator, Bob Kane, beloved husband, father, grandfather, in loving memory. With Bill Finger.